So I've just done a little plan of my garden bed. So I had a look at what seeds I've got. This is my little seed safe. That's my mum's old sewing tin. And it's just full of seeds that I've collected. Some are bought, some are found. Those ones in the bottom are moringas. And yeah, so I've got some pea flowers as well in there. So goji berries down the bottom there, and just kind of dotted out a rough plan. This is how I planted it last year with an inner circle and an outer circle. We've got existing okra here. These are the pineapples. There's a raspberry and a sweet potato, a couple of them. So, and we're just going to add calendula, chamomile, echinacea, parsley, rocket, spinach, gojis, capsicum, bell peppers, zucchini and mullein, and some tomatoes. So we'll put the tomatoes here, and I'm not sure what's going to go in the middle yet, but maybe something in the future. Maybe I'll plant a moringa tree in the center or something. I think I'll put the gojis up in this corner, or maybe dot them around in the corners, just to see which ones work where. Not sure exactly what time of year most of these are for, but it seems like things are coming up, and most of it grows pretty good all year round. And if it doesn't grow, then there's a good chance that it will just lay dormant until the right time. So I think I'll start by putting in some of the spinach and the rocket and the calendula and the chamomile, all of like the sort of ground level, ground cover sort of species. I don't think I'll use the Spanish lavender. Maybe that'll go in a different garden bed. And I don't know what these guys are, but I'll just chuck some of them in anyway and see what happens. So yeah, I've got my little plan, or at least a record with the date, so we can see what pops up. So time to have a play. I just thought that I'd do some planting first, and then I'll spread some mulch on top, and then work on fixing up the shade cover a bit more securely, so that the possums and the turkeys don't have so much of a field day with it. Which it seemed to work pretty well last year, and it's just crude. It's like a few sticks of bamboo poked up into the top, and then a net just draped over the whole thing. There's a bit of a split on this side, which I'll just peg together, and it's all just tied off at the corners into the wired fence. Because yeah, initially we did. I just like made a border around it of logs, and chucked some stakes in the corners, some wooden stakes, so that it would give it a bit of shape, and the logs are really good for the fungal properties, so it's a bit of a food source. Yeah, and the soil just held itself in there. I did make a layer of mulch around the outside of all the fencing, and then laid the soil into the middle so that it would kind of hold shape. It's just been topped up recently with the soil that's over here, which I got from some friends' garden beds. It was pretty much organic. They had used a little bit of soil in there that had some fertilizer pellets, so I just tried to avoid those, but it was chock full of witchetty grubs and earthworms that were as long as my hand span, pretty much. So I think it'll be pretty good for it. So time to get moving. And so just using the knife of my hand, I'm just cutting in the rows and then spreading seeds, and then just going over them again, so that each time it's kind of moved in. Like that's echinacea that I've put in down there. So I've just put in echinacea and spinach and chamomile and rocket. So it was chamomile and spinach, just lightly sprinkled through here, like really lightly, so only probably like 30 or so seeds of each across here. And then this was rocket and rocket and parsley. Sorry, I'm about to put the parsley in. This was rocket and what's the other thing? Anyway, moving along. So I'll just show you how I do it with the parsley now. So I just made a second row that was just a little step, half step inwards, just in here. So I'm being careful not to tread on the garden too much, but also not being super precious about the compacting of the soil, as this will probably be the only time that I'll really step in here, so it should be okay. Basically, just give them a bit of a jostle. Get the bag open. There we go. So, just really light amount because I'd like to keep using these seeds, and I'm not super going for like mega yields because I want it to be able to be yeah, just sort of used throughout the years. I can always get more, but in the event that I can't get more, it's a good idea to just yeah, use it really wisely. Okay, so now I've got some calendula. I'm not sure how big this guy grows, and obviously I'm not doing this as an exact science for the size of the plant growth. I'm relying on nature to make its own divisions between themselves, so they'll fight it out, and as a result I assume that they'll be stronger for it. So I'll put in some calendula with the parsley that I've just spread around. So a couple of bits in each spot, and it should mean that there's a good amount of ground cover and nice division between the plants, because having too much of the same plant touching each other or side by side will only make it easier for so-called pests to migrate between the plants. So it's much slower for them to smash your crop if they have to keep going down to the ground and looking for the next one. You can usually either catch them, or they'll just sort of run their course on one plant and then evolve and become a butterfly or whatever kind of insect you have that's actively herbivorizing and pulverizing your crop. I'm going to move on to the capsicums now, and I've just discovered that my lotus seeds are in here. So I'd like to do some aquatic plants in the future and grow some lotus. But until then, it's just terrestrial plants for now. Just wanted to add as well, sorry about my audio. It's a little bit, sounds a bit like an alien, but I bought a second-hand phone so that I could have a good camera, and yeah, just a learning curve. So now I'm just tidying the rows back in. I pushed in some moringa, and if they do sprout, I'll probably transplant them. Maybe I'll leave one here in the center, and then just move the other one somewhere else, because as you can see, most of these things I've planted are sort of waist high at most, so they're pretty they're all pretty small and not going to be too competitive with each other really, for light and moisture. But that's what we want, really. So yeah, I just discovered I planted a corn cob here, so there's a corn coming up in the middle. So that solves that problem of what do we put in the middle. I think all I've got left to do is put some goji berries in the corners. I put some pea flowers in this side, which I got from a lovely newer friend that I met at the grounded permaculture community down in Nimimba. Really recommend you guys check their stuff out because they're super awesome activated minds. So yeah, that's some mullein and gojis. And then it's on to the mulching. Another important thing to note is that a lot of the things that we do with our gardening and ways that we've kind of learned to work with the plants have come from the European style of agriculture and land management, which in my opinion is inherently a bit broken. So when it comes to like mulching and using just raw organic materials, yeah, some things like maybe too much of one thing is a bit detrimental, like too many leaves can lead to a lot of acidity in the soil. But generally speaking, the reason why people leave their garden beds bare and have like a style of having it bare earthed like that is more for the clarity of being able to see where the plants are popping up, and also planting with spacing, not only for making sure that they've got enough specific space for themselves to grow. It's more to do with yeah, getting the biggest yields, and when it comes time to harvesting, it's less messy. So I tend to leave things a bit more natural and let them compete for themselves so that they can grow stronger by in terms of competition. So yeah, you'll see how I mulch out my garden in this next bit, and it might look a bit scrappy, but things will generally find their way if they're meant to, so we'll leave it up to nature in that respect. So it didn't take that much mulch. I also didn't want to bury it too heavily because obviously we do want things to come through. Usually when you're gardening in an ornamental garden bed, you'd be mulching probably at least six inches thick, if not 12, just to make sure that nothing else is popping up. So in this instance, it's just really lightly covering everything with about 1.5 inches or 1 inch of organic material, just so that things can make their way. But also the purpose of the mulch is not only to feed the garden with good nutrients, but it also is for retaining moisture. So this mulch was very, very damp, and that should dry out over time, but it'll ensure that the garden stays nice and moist in the times when it's a little bit drier. So I'm going to work on fixing up the netting now, because that's probably the most important thing. Once you put all these seeds in, you don't want a turkey coming and changing your little garden bed. So yeah, I'll take a photo or a little video again when I'm done. Now we've got it all secured down, just tucked a few bits of wood on the edge, and it's just loosely draped over this side here, so I can move the wood, unhook it from the top of that bamboo where it's just sort of hanging on by the little bristles on the end of the bamboo stick. And same up there, it's just this other side is draped this way and this side's draped that way. In the corner I've got it fixed on here, just tied together. And there's a little praying mantis checking out the job. And then yeah, every corner I just kind of tied into the fence like so. So it's all just hanging on there and just cross woven in that way. So That seems to be enough to keep most things out. Even the fence is kind of exposed on the bottom on the other side there. And yeah, see how it all goes, and I'll keep you guys updated. Ciao for now.